The movie tells us about a monster named James P. Sullivan and Mike Wazowski working at Monster Inc. James P. Sullivan is a scarer and Mike Wazowski is his assistant. They worked hard in the company till they were the top scorer. It all began because Randall Bob's Sully arch enemy started to get envious of Sully getting the top scorer. Randall quietly worked overtime to scare humans. Everything went south when a human girl named Boo escaped her real world and hopped on to the monster world. Boo got attached to Sully and called Sully Kitty. Both Sully and Mike panic when Boo appears in the monster world and do everything they can do to get Boo back to her world. Randall, on the other hand, wants to kidnap Boo to experiment his new technology, which is sucking all the scare from Boo. Both Sully and Mike tried their best to help Boo escape Randall and return her safely to her real world.
The stakeholder of the company, Monster Inc. The first one, employee. Both Sully and Mike risked their jobs by quietly getting rid of the girl, Boo, without any other employees noticing it. Example, when Boo escaped to the monster world, Sully and Mike bring Boo to the apartment quietly so they won't ruin the company being shut down by the Child Detection Agency, CDA. Next, all monsters are always ready and have proper procedure if any human somehow escapes to the monster world. Example, when a sock is stuck to one of the monster back, the floor manager press the emergency button and the whole factory is shut down with the CDA ambush and destroy the sock. The customers. The first one, the whole monster world depends on Monster Inc. for their electricity source. The electricity source is caused by the scream of the human child. Example, in Sully and Mike's apartment, Boo screamed so loud until the whole apartment had an electrical issue. The next one, the customer still trusts in Monster Inc. despite the issue from the CEO and Randall. The CEO and Randall tried to revolutionize the company by using a special machine that would suck the scare from the child. It eventually got stopped by Ross, the CDA boss. Thereafter, Monster Inc. changed the source of energy from human child scream to human child laughter. The whole community still accepts Monster Inc. as their source of electricity. The ethical dilemma from the movie Monster Inc. The first one, the villain, Henry J. Waternoose. He is the third generation CEO of Monster Inc. When he finds out Boo is with Sully, he has the choice to either help return Boo to his real world or take the child to Randall and put it into the special machine. Henry then kicks Sully and Mike to the Mount Everest door and leaves them stuck there, taking Boo to Randall to test out the special machine. In the end, it failed because of the quick action by Sully and Mike getting back to the monster world to save Boo. Henry's actions on helping Randall kidnap the child has its consequences. Henry got caught on tape on what he was gonna do to the child, and CDA arrested Henry on his action. The next ethical dilemma from the hero perspective are James P. Sullivan. He is Mike Wazowski's best friend. Mike has a deal with Randall to return Boo back to her world. Sully, on the other hand, feels suspicious on why Randall, his archenemy, would want to help him. Boo's door is ready, and when Mike tells Sully to put the child back in her bed, Sully chooses not to return the child just yet, as he feels suspicious. Mike then convinces Sully by entering the room and jumping on Boo's bed. Thereafter, Mike gets kidnapped by Randall. Sully quickly hid under the table protecting Boo. Turns out, Randall tried to trick Mike into returning the child so that he can take the child to test out the special machine. Sully's action on not returning Boo on his room has saved her from being tortured by Randall with his special machine.
So it's time to review the movie. Discuss action taken by the villain from a consequentialist point of view. Consequentialism is an ethical theory that judges whether or not something is right by what its consequences are. Whether an act is right or wrong depends only on the result of the act. This general approach can be applied at different levels to different normative properties of different kinds of things. But the most prominent example is probably consequentialism about the moral rightness of acts, which holds that whether an act is morally right depends only on the consequences of that act or something related to that act. In this movie, action from Sullivan and Mike, which are trying to save Boo from the Monster Incorporation and CDA, demonstrate the principle of consequentialism because the act was wrong since they are letting humans getting into the city of Metropolis. Generally, that act from Sullivan and Mike is good because they save the kid life from the villain, who is Waternos. Typically, Sullivan and Mike action is morally correct because it benefits a large numbers of kids. At the end of the movie, the city of Metropolis had a better life because they generate more electricity power from kids' love. Consequentialism regards actions and focus solely on the end result that provides the greatest amount of pleasure. The act can clarify ethical in this principle. Okay, now we move to the next review, which is discuss action taken by the hero from a deontology point of view. Deontological focus on the rightness or wrongness of action themselves rather than the consequences of the action. An act is considered correct when you follow the ethical duties and obligations, not because they may result in good consequences or increase in pleasure or happiness, rather you do them for the sake of duty. In this movie, Sullivan hides Boo from Waternos because he wants to secure his position in the company, and he doesn't want to be held guilty of bringing humans into their monster world. And as a result, it is unethical because lying or cheating is a wrong act that was motivated by self-interest or consideration for others. Sullivan acts at the middle of the movie that he admits all his wrongdoing to Waternos, and it is considered ethical because he did it for the sake of obligation.
I will explain on ethical action I would take if I were the villain. Some ethical action would I have taken if I were the villain should to change the working system because Monster Inc. are exploiting human children. Monster Inc. original method of harvesting energy are by scaring children and store their scream to be used as energy in the Monstropolis city. The decision to scare children for power is unethical, but it was executed because it only harmed children and not the monster. If I was the villain, the best way to harvest energy are not by having contact with children, but by other alternative or generating power like solar, wind, water turbine, and many more. This is because they live in an Earth-like planet and it has sufficient and even renewable energy. Other than that, they are modern and smart enough to think how to work on the already available source rather than take energy from other world. Next action would I take is to be honest to employee because Monster Inc. lie to its employee. Waternoose led the employees to believe that any physical contact with children was deadly. In that way, Waternoose can prevent any monster from feeling of guilty for their abusive act scaring the children. If Waternoose are honest to the employee will know the true hazard of their job and they will not going through a mass hysteria when a child accidentally let into the monster world. Next, the feeling if I was the villain. If I as a villain, I will feel regret by making a bad decision because it will affect myself. As CEO, I starting to feel pressure because the factory is temporarily shut down due to quality control incident. To keep company working and ease the board of director, I make a decision by do anything even though using a wrong way. By kidnap Boo to help the company, it was a bad decision from me and I regret of it because my action, I get caught on tape and be arrested by CDA. Another feeling is shame. If I as a villain, I will feel shame of my action because as a CEO of a company, I must show a good example to my worker and be a good leader. My action to not send Boo back and help Randall to extract more energy using special machine is a shameful side of me because it will harm Boo, and to cover my action, I try to turn Boo over to Child Detection Agency (CDA) and frame Mike and Sully for my wrongdoing. The effect of my action, I get caught on tape and be seen by my employee and be arrested. In conclusion, as CEO of the company, I must think twice of my action and to think rationally so that I will be proud of myself and to the employees.
In conclusion, there is so much lessons that we can learn from this movie in terms of ethical behavior in the workplace. This movie highlights the importance of creativity and honesty in doing our work. With creativity, we can achieve the best result with minimal effort and at the same time not abusing any party. This can be seen in the ending of the story, which is Monster Inc. changed their power source from children's scream to laughter, which is easier and safer than before. Next, with honesty, the company can create a consistent workplace behavior regardless of external influences. This can be seen when Sully found out that children are not toxic and he kept Boo with him for days instead of self-quarantine like what is taught by the CDA, which is not true at all. That's all from us. Thank you.